All right, I'm going to tell you a story today that it's a story I learned it with a piece of paper, okay? There once was a little boy and girl. They received a present in the mail, and they got the present, and they opened it up, okay? And inside that present was a tent. So the little boy and girl were so excited because they got a tent. And the boy was the oldest, and the girl was the middle child, and then there was a baby. They opened up the present, they were so excited because they wanted to sleep outside in the yard. So the boy was excited about the tent because he wanted to go outside at night, and he wanted to sleep in the tent, and he wanted to have a little window for himself because he was tall, right? So he wanted his window to be up high so he could see the stars, all the stars at night. So he has the top window. And the little girl, she was excited about the tent because she wanted to see a nighttime animal. So her window was the lower window because she was shorter. And then they had a baby brother. And the baby brother was so little, sometimes they would allow him to come to the tent and just peek out at the bottom because you know babies crawl, right? So they got their tent and they were so excited. Then they decided that one night they wanted to sleep out in the yard in their tent, right? Well, there was a hole at the top of their tent. The only reason they could figure out was that there was a hole there was because the smoke could come out. Well, they're not big enough to have a fire in their tent, are they? They're too young to start a fire in their tent. So they figured that the only reason they would need that hole was for a fire. Well, they can't do that yet. That would have to wait till later. So they thought that that would be good to see the stars at night as well. So one day they asked their parents if they could sleep out in the tent at night. And their parents were like, no, it's too cold. So the little boy and the little girl said, please, 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 we want to sleep in the tent. And so the mom and dad said, well, let's watch the weather report and see if it's going to be too cold. Because it was in the middle of the winter. So the little boy and the little girl went to watch the weather report. And the weather report said, it's not going to be that cold. So mom and dad said, okay. So at night they put on 2 pairs of pajamas. They took their teddy bear, they took their sleeping bags, and they took their flashlights. Because they wanted to see the animals and they wanted to see the stars. And then there was a little hole in the tent, just big enough for them to crawl through. There it is. So they crawled in their tent, and they went into their tent, and that night they decided to stay the night. Well, they had the baby out there for a little while until it was time to go to bed. And the baby was crawling around looking out his window, and then a little bit later, the little girl looked out her window, and you know what she saw? She saw, ooh, ooh, a nighttime animal. Which animal would make that noise? What animal would make that noise? An owl. So she did get to see her nighttime animal. And then the tall boy, the oldest boy, he got to look out his window and see the beautiful stars at night. And it was time to go to bed. So the baby went back in the house because it was too cold for the baby. Plus he just wasn't big enough. And then they went to sleep. And they drowned into deep sleep. And while they were there, at night, slowly and softly, it began to snow. And they woke up in their beautiful tent. They saw the snowflakes on the ground. The end.
Yes.